Thank you, everyone, for joining Evan and I today in Elevate Your Success. Today is a powerful conversation on speaking truth. Part of my story and who I am has changed over the years. And back in 2020, during this beautiful time for the world, I was experiencing stress in my life. And when I was looking for relief from stress, I was seeking outside of myself. And during this time in 2020, the world was filled with noise and conflicting narratives. And so for me, discovering the truth can often feel confusing and unsettling. And so I'm here to guide you to discover the lies of language and remember truth in every conversation. When I was experiencing, or when I experience stress in my life, it shows up in my physical body, whether I'm having sleepless nights or overeating. And I'll even share with you, overeating for me looked like going to the cabinet where all the candy is. And something I learned about sugar and candy. Sugar feeds self-doubt. So the more I would go into the cabinet for candy and for sugar, I was actually feeding the self-doubt loop in my life. And so I asked the question, well, if sugar feeds self-doubt, what feeds confidence? And what the answer is speaking truth. Asking the questions creates an answer for your intuition to kick in and for the answers to come through you. So overeating with sugar was one of the symptoms I recognized in a stressful situation. So when I'm experiencing stress, I'm noticing my behavior. Am I going to the candy closet, or am I changing my choices and going elsewhere? Also, some other symptoms of stress rather than just overeating. There is also the time management. I was listening to the way I was responding to people say, "Hey, I'd like to meet you for a cup of coffee." And my response to them is, "I don't have time." And so listening to my inner coach hear myself say, "I don't have time," caused me to have zero time in my life, caused me to recognize I was creating overwhelm and lack of management of my time.
So how did you teach your inner critic how to actually have a different paradigm, saying it's not about having more time, it's about making more time?
Great question, because 77% of adults report experiencing stress in their life. So what do people do? People usually turn towards outside solutions, like I was doing. I was turning towards candy to feed myself and to feed this void that I was feeling. And what I was unaware of at this particular time, when stress was so rampant in my life, I was actually in a victim mindset. So when I became aware of my habits and behaviors, more so the language I was speaking, because the language for me was the key. When I started listening to my own words come through me of, "I don't have time," I said to myself, that's a lie. That is an
Aha,
absolute lie, because
that's right.
there is truth here. I do have time. I can manage my time. If I choose to be with this individual for a cup of coffee, that's a choice. For me to say I don't have time is also a choice. And which
That's
choice do I choose?
that's the inner critic lying in your ear, but you're
Yes.
in that vigilant victim, that victim mindset, which is
Mm.
so important for people. That self-awareness is the first step. But then once you have that awareness, you've got these lies being whispered in your ear. How do you turn that off?
Great question, because I also was like hearing my inner critic, but I was also in my head, so the inner dialogue, but I was also hearing it come out my mouth and lying to people, or even lying to myself, telling this individual, "I don't have time." Even the phrase, "I don't have time," speaking the word not causes more frustration, causes my intuition to shut off, and causing the stress to expand rather than making the stress smaller and having solutions come through. So, what does society tell us? Take the next program, read the next book, go to retreats. All of these are, and in their own practice, are great practices. However, when I continue to go outside looking for the next pill, reading the book or the program, it was good for a short period of time. I'm looking for a long-term solution. And the long-term solution for me was to go inside. And here is a beautiful illustration of the shadow. When I became aware of my own inner critic, my own inner dialogue, as well as my outer critic, my outer dialogue, rather than being afraid of it and shying away from it or suppressing my feelings or avoiding these things, I decided and made the choice to go inward. Because when I chose to go inward, I found within myself the awareness of my coach, my inner coach, speaking quietly within the inner critic. And when I went towards the coach, towards the light within me, is when the root of the problem was uprooted and I became stronger. And recognizing my shadow is also a power. So my greatest weakness became my greatest strength.
And
Again,
you say
yeah.
weakness, but when I look at this too, I think of our inner critic is there to keep us safe. It's
Mm.
our comfort zone. And it's meant they're protecting us because that was what served us when we were younger. It's how that inner critic is developed. But when you think about your inner coach saying, hey, look for the truth, it's more about growth and about allowing yourself to learn to think differently. I think that that whole concept of us being spiritual beings, having a physical or human experience, the human experience is this part of us that is this inner critic. Listening to an inner critic is part of that fight or flight response. Whereas listening to the whisper, that truth that's there, is our spiritual selves wanting to grow and change and contribute and have purpose. So I love that you put that together. And I love the pictures too, and the way they do a great illustration of really what it's like inside your head.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm grateful you're bringing this to the conversation because when in the slide of the victim mindset of having life occur to me is my programming. This is how society was teaching me, and I adopted this teaching into my own awareness of living life from a human experience rather than my soul experience.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the key for me, the mechanism of change, the root cause was flipping this understanding of, yes, I am a human, however, I'm a spirit first, having this human experience, rather than the human having a spiritual experience. When I flipped this understanding of who I am, it expanded my awareness, it expanded my expression and stepping into my power as illustrated
Super.
here, my superpower. Yeah.
Mhm.
So small changes over a long period of time make a big difference. And I've shared the words we use is a beautiful way to create a small change over time. For example, every word we speak is literal. And I shared this earlier when I said, I don't have time. So the word not have time was being created. I was finding my schedule full of activities rather than full of experiences of joy. And as Evan likes to call it, mojo, moments of spontaneous joy. So hidden within every word pattern we speak is the structure of our thinking and a roadmap to truth. So when I focused in on the lies of I don't have time about my life, or follow the pattern and you will win, or work really hard, or change is really hard, or you have to be smart to change. When I followed these patterns, stress grew rather than joy and peace. So the truth here, every word we utter becomes our outer reality. So the word utter and outer have the same root meaning. The words we speak become our outer world. Now, it is estimated that the spoken word of prosperity can speed up your results as much as 80%. Here's the difference. Rather than words of positivity, it's the word of prosperity can speed up your results. When I found I was speaking words of positivity, it only led me so far. It was fleeting. It ended. When I changed to words of prosperity, my results sped up to as much as 80%. And so the truth is, The answers come through you rather than outside of you. So the solution is going inward to address the darkness, to address the lies you bought into, and shake them up and say, where's the truth in this? And shift it. Because when you're in a stressful situation, you're shutting off your intuition and you're in a space of not hearing your inner coach. You're being stressed and judging yourself for even being stressed. So as I said, it's estimated that the spoken word of prosperity can speed up your results as much as 80%. So how can we alleviate stress? Well, great question. We can alleviate it by speaking truth. And I have this free course available for you, Speaking Truth course. And in this course, you're going to learn the power of language and decipher truth through your awareness, exploring patterns of your spoken word, and to resolve conflict through skilled communication and genuine relationships. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I will share the link with you on how to sign up for my free course. Thank you.